show of hands, how many of you have ever gotten in a relationship because you felt that you were in love? Very good. How many have ever broken up and said to the person, you don't deserve me? As a matter of fact, I don't even know how I fell in love with you in the first place. Oh, I know. You were drunk in love, right?
To think, why is it that only very few people have an amazing relationship? Did they just get lucky? Are they the chosen ones, perhaps? I think seriously, most of us would agree, wouldn't we, that great relationships take work. The problem is, more often than not, we have no idea what to work on. Well, over the last 20 plus years now, working with countless couples, we've observed that all successful relationships, every one of them, exhibit 4 simple yet fundamental habits which we want to share with you over the next 15 minutes or so.
If you loved someone, would you cheat on them? If you truly loved someone, would you cheat on them? True love that is not backed up by the right action is not true love. You shifted your focus from your girl to someone else. You divided your attention and your emotions. Someone who used to hold the first priority on your heart no longer hold that position.
The great news is that these are habits that we can all learn and develop. And when we do, we significantly increase our chances of having one of those amazing relationships. If we don't, chances are you probably never will. Every failing relationship we've ever seen has lacked one or more of these habits. As we were reminded just recently over Sunday lunch.
And what a Sunday lunch that was. We met this couple socially, connected well with them because we shared similar city backgrounds. Let's call them Rachel and Steve. So we invited them to have lunch with us to discuss the business that Steve wanted to launch. But as we ate and chatted, we started sensing that Rachel wasn't happy at all. So I leaned across and I said, Rachel, what do you think about this business idea? And her response said it all. I know nothing about this, and he never discusses anything with me. So John and I just exchanged quick glances to say, this is serious, but we're going there. And then suddenly, the thin wallpaper covering the cracks just started to peel off. And out tumbled the frustration and the disappointment and the anger and the fact that Steve was working away from home more and more. And when he did come home on the weekends, he would sleep downstairs in the living room sofa. And then Steve dropped the bomb. You know that if it wasn't for those 2 boys, I'd have left you a long time ago. Now, we do spicy food, but... But that was a bit more spice than we were planning for Sunday lunch.
According to a survey, about 9 out of 10 Americans cited love as an important factor to get married. Past statistics show that 50% of first marriages, 67% of second marriages, and a staggering high of 73% of third marriages end in divorce. The question is, if love is an important factor that influences people to get married, how come it does not hold the marriage?
Let me share some stats with you. With divorce rates around 40% in much of the developed world, and cohabiting couples breaking up at much higher rates of 60 to 70%, the stats tell us that around half, 50% of all long-term couples simply not going the distance. Now what that tells us, and don't look around now, but either you or the person sitting right next to you is a Rachel or a Steve. It is. That's the reality.
And the mental health.
Now, this emotional trauma is also spilling over and impacting our mental health. In their 2016 report, the Mental Health Foundation issued the stark warning that the absence of quality relationships is, get this, it's killing us faster than obesity and lack of exercise. And all of this is having an impact on the next generation as well. Research out of the Marriage Foundation has shown that the single biggest predictor of teenage mental health is, guess what? Family breakdown. Their research goes on to show that where couples separate, the children are 10 to 15% more likely to have mental health problems than where the couple stays together. These are big numbers. Now, all of this goes to explain why the epicenter of mental health today is currently in our 16 to 24-year-olds. That's where it is. And of course, none of this is without cost.
Examine love in a breakup. I believe one of three things has happened. It's either one, there was no love at the beginning of the relationship to start with. Two, there was something bigger than the love that broke the relationship. Or three, the love declined. I can understand when you feel like your love is depreciating and you tell your partner, I just don't love you right now, especially when you are having a meal together. And your partner becomes inquisitive to ask why. Because you just ate the last piece of the pie. If you loved me, you will let me have it. That's what you say, right, ladies? At the same token, I believe there is nothing bigger than love that can break a relationship. Absolutely nothing. If the couple truly loves each other. And that is what I want to talk to you about today. True love. There are different types of love out there. You have the filial love, which is brotherly love. It is what you share with your family, friends, or colleagues. Another one is eros. It's a sexual type of love. It gives the feelings of arousal. This is what you feel when you see a beautiful, sexy person just walking past. And you're like, ooh, oh, my. You cannot stop looking at them. You cannot hold yourself together. You begin to fantasize and have all kind of imagination about that person. You are having eros type of love. The next one is what Mary J. Blige calls real love. Y'all know the song, real love. Oh, I'm searching for real love. Someone to make my heart feel real love. And we are still trying to understand what she meant by real love. You see, all these types of love cannot sustain a relationship. They cannot hold a relationship together. But true love, which the Bible also describes as agape love, can hold a relationship together, can keep a relationship for a long haul. What is true love? True love is passionate love. You have two independent words, passion and love, fused together to make a strong definition. Passion is the force that drives the love for something. It's the fuel that keeps love going. Love without passion is like a body without a soul. It's like a car without an engine. No movement would happen. And just in case you are wondering how you can tell if someone truly loves you or if you truly love someone, sacrifice. Sacrifice for one another will indicate if you truly love each other. And sacrifice is giving up something for another thing that is far more important. Just like giving up that piece of pie for your girl that is far more important. Or it's the release of something in your possession in an exchange for another thing that you love. This is exactly what God did when he released and sacrificed his only son, Jesus, just to have us. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him will not perish, but have everlasting life. God demonstrated true love, agape love, love filled with passion and sacrifice. And if you know one thing about throwing parties, the more women you have there, the more men want to come in, spend money at the bar, buy drinks, pop bottles. So my goal every time is to have as many ladies at the party. This, however, opens the door to always have women around me. I remember after throwing a party, 3 women that do not know each other say they want to spend a night at my house. They wake up in the morning. One begins to feed me breakfast. The second one gets jealous. She goes into the kitchen, grabs food, comes back. She starts to feed me. The third one looking like, this is crazy. Should I join the party or what? I'm thinking to myself, it's all a dream. But no, it's a reality. I'm like Hugh Hefner up in my house with the bunnies. But that reality was short-lived as I meet a girl that I'm truly in love with, and she's truly in love with me as well. But she does not like the lifestyle that I'm living. She does not want to compete with any other woman. This is a deal breaker for her, and of course, a tough situation for me, because that means I'm going to have to give up throwing parties and spending time with other women so that I can have and keep her. So I begin to analyze the situation. What am I going to do? Who or what should I pick? Her over them, or them over her? This is my Kairos moment, my moment of decision. This is where true love and sacrifice come into play. So I made a decision and the sacrifice to give up both throwing parties and spending time with other women so that I can have and keep this girl that I'm truly in love with. A few years later, we got married, and we have 2 beautiful, amazing children together. You see, true love is the only type of love that can keep and sustain a relationship. It will help you to make the ultimate sacrifice, to give up playing games, quit destructive habits, and seek counseling when you can to acquire tools and knowledge in order for you to have a healthy relationship.
Relationship breakdown is a huge, huge problem.
It is. And to solve a problem of this scale, borrowing a phrase from medical science, what we need are better fences at the top of the cliffs rather than just more ambulances at the bottom. And in relationship land, these 4 habits are strong fences. You see, all relationships go over a similar set of hurdles triggered by life events. It could be setting up house together, or having that first baby, or in a work context, being promoted to positions that involve or demand more time away from home. And so these hurdles show up as unmet expectations, poor conflict resolution styles, trust and respect issues, and poor communication. Outside of abusive relationships, success comes from being equipped to get over these hurdles smoothly, because stumbling at hurdle after hurdle just leads to frustration. And when people feel frustrated and stuck with no way forward, they end up going their separate ways. Our experience over the last 20 years confirms that mastering these 4 habits gets you over the hurdle. It's not about being perfect. We're not perfect. But it is about being intentional in developing the habits. Shall we share the habits? Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. So the first of the habits then, be curious, not critical, helps you get over the hurdle of frustration that comes from unmet expectations. And we learned this one ourselves the hard way. Our story goes all the way back to 30 years ago when we first met at business school, when Andrea came to the UK to get her master's and ended up getting her mister as well. And don't let the current hairstyle fool you. That was me back then. Anyway, a few years on, we set up in business together, and it took us all of about 3 months before the wheel started to come off. Because very quickly we realized that our different work styles were grating against each other. Now, and because now we had all our eggs in one basket, the financial pressure was just huge on us. So everything became a problem, even simple things. Now, for some couples, it's the toilet seat, up or down. For us, the single biggest predictor was the state of our desks. One was very organized, yeah, and one was more like organized chaos, shall we say. And the challenge, the problems would happen, the arguments, when we had to swap desks to use the single desktop computer that we had. This is 25 years ago. But now, because we're together 24/7, the problems would follow us home. So many a night was spent in tension, hugging the edge of the mattress rather than each other. So forget about any physical action. We weren't even touching toes back then. You talk about wallpaper over the cracks. Now, it was Einstein who said, you cannot solve a problem with the same level of thinking that got you there. So in desperation, we looked around, we said, how can we change these mindsets that we have? And we came across a material that helped us understand that actually, our biggest source of frustration was really just our strengths, just unrecognized, unappreciated, and out of balance. So habit number 1, be curious, not critical, is all about investing the time to understand how we're wired differently so that we can learn to play to our strengths rather than waste time and energy criticizing differences.
So given these differences, habit number 2, be careful, not crushing, helps us get over the hurdle of poor conflict resolution styles. Our natural fight or flight responses are very me-centered. It's about looking after me and my interests rather than being us-centered. So we need to literally reprogram these automatic responses by developing the skills and habits that allow us to turn up better to conflict situations, to take care of each other through the process, to work towards genuine resolutions, no matter how angry we might be with each other. One of the disciplines that we developed was to set ground rules, which are boundaries that would control our behavior in conflict situations so that we didn't keep falling at this hurdle over and over again. For example, we agreed we would never hit each other, we would never walk out the house in anger, and we would never threaten divorce just to be spiteful. Let's face it, we're going to disappoint and frustrate each other from time to time. Anybody who says they never argue either lack passion or they are lying through their teeth. But habit 2, be careful, not crushing, helps us learn how to work together, argue well, treat each other with care, and come out stronger together.
For sure. And habit number 3, ask, don't assume, helps you get over the hurdle of frustration that comes from mistrust and disrespect that can creep into relationships. So back to Rachel and Steve. It turns out their single biggest challenge was different perceptions of respect in their relationship. Although they came from the same cultural background, Steve had grown up with a very traditional mindset. And his expectation was that his wife would be like his mum and do for him like mum did for dad. In fact, more than that, he expected that Rachel would become best friends with his mum and learn how to be his ideal wife that way. Rachel, on the other hand, she's thinking, on what planet? Because in her mind, they were never going to have a relationship that looked anything remotely like Steve's mum and dad's. Now, recognizing that they needed additional information to reframe the challenges in their minds, we shared with them some material around mutual respect and how to agree roles and responsibilities in the different seasons of life. And we were blown away when, literally before the week was out, Steve sent me a text to say, thank you so much. This has really helped us unblock some challenges and have our real proper conversation in years. So habit number 3 really is about getting good at having those courageous conversations that see us asking and discussing rather than assuming and stereotyping.
And that leads us neatly onto habit number 4, connect before you correct, which is about learning how to communicate real value and appreciation and holding back on our insatiable need to give constructive feedback. When you live and work with somebody day in, day out, it is so easy to take them for granted and just to be constantly on their back. But as the saying goes, people go where they feel welcomed, but stay where they feel valued. So we need to be deliberate about finding meaningful, specific ways that build warmth in the relationship. And that can sometimes be simply breaking the routine. For us, we've been known to disappear in the middle of the working day to go to the movies after a period of intense workshop delivery. And 25 years on, we still take date night seriously to keep the fun and the anticipation and the intimacy in the relationship. Otherwise, we risk losing the magic and just become functional around the grind of work and talking about children and cooking and laundry, and we signed up for more than that. So habit number 4, connect before you correct. Oh no, let's be real before I say that. If we get really good at connecting in our routine conversations, guaranteed you'll be connecting in the bedroom as well. So, habit number 4, connect before you correct, is about being deliberate about shifting that balance to connecting before we correct each other. Now listen, we're not sharing these habits just as nice to have. These 4 habits can literally save lives. Let me share with you how Rachel and Steve's story almost ended. We met up with them 2 weeks later for a coffee. And from their body language, we could tell they were in a much better place. They were holding hands, they were laughing. Things were good. But as they opened up and shared about the experience, we were rocked when Rachel, in describing her emotional lows, just paused and said, I found myself thinking that if Steve did go ahead with a divorce, I'd just write him a letter, tell him to look after the boys, and walk in front of a bus. But for a chance conversation with us and a bit of information, tragedy could have struck our friends right under our noses. And so reality hit really hard that day. Relationship breakdown can literally kill us. We're happy to report that Rachel and Steve continue to do well. But we ask ourselves the question, how many Rachels are we missing? And with this growing concern over mental health and well-being, why is relationship equipping still left to chance?
Exactly. We all invest in the things that we value. Our education, our homes, our pensions even. So what in the world is stopping us from investing in our relationships? What would the world look like if everyone was practicing these habits of being more curious than critical, more careful than crushing, of asking rather than assuming, and of connecting more than we correct? Here's the thing. When we all start developing and practicing these habits, not only do we significantly increase the chances of our relationships surviving, but now we begin to thrive as individuals, as families, as companies, as nations. And if we can each just take responsibility for developing these habits in our own relationships, together, maybe, just maybe, we'll leave the world a better place for the generations to come.
Thank you.
Thank you.